Jack Grealish's career has always carried that mix of genius and chaos. The kind of story you could only imagine for a player who seemed born in the wrong era. It could be mesmerizing one week and a tabloid headline the next. By the time he was 19, he was starring in FA Cup semi-finals, creating goals to knock Liverpool out while honoring the memory of his late brother. It was the stuff of folklore, a kid writing history in the very competition that had brought his family grief years earlier. But then, just as quickly, he was on the front page for being caught with nitrous oxide. Villa thought a stern word from. The manager would sort him out, but weeks later, there he was again in nightclubs, champagne in hand, while his club was being humiliated in the league. It became a pattern moments of brilliance followed by self-inflicted chaos. And then came the darkest season of all. Villa were relegated and Grealish's name was tied to a miserable record. 16 Premier League appearances, 16 defeats, not a single win. For many players, that would have been the end. But for Grealish, fate intervened in a way no one expected. In a preseason friendly, he collided with Tom Cleverley, seemed to shrug it off, and then realized something was terrifyingly wrong. His kidney had split in 2 places, bleeding internally for 5 hours, and doctors told him bluntly this could kill you. Suddenly, the parties, the mistakes, the carelessness, all came into perspective. 3 months of recovery gave him nothing but time to think. And when he returned with purpose. At 23, he rejected Tottenham's advances, pledged his loyalty to Villa, and dragged them back to the Premier League almost single-handedly. Appointed captain, he thrived under the responsibility, leading by example with goals, assists, the kind of leadership that carried Villa through playoff victories
on the field, and how we can feel comfortable and confident for the next matches.
Thank you.
And unforgettable derbies. For a while, it looked like Jack Grealish had finally conquered his demons. At City, Pep Guardiola saw not just flair, but the possibility of turning him into a modern superstar. The £100 million price tag made him the most expensive English player ever. Handed the iconic number 10 shirt once worn by Sergio Aguero, the expectations were monumental. And at first, he seemed ready to deliver. Goals, assists, flashes of brilliance, it was all there. But as the season wore on, reality bit. He wasn't delivering the numbers people expected, and worse, he was spotted in nightclubs with Phil Foden, dropped by Guardiola for discipline. Suddenly, Grealish was questioning himself in front of cameras, wondering what he had really contributed to a team stacked with world-class players. His critics called him a flop. His defenders insisted you couldn't measure him in raw stats. Strangely enough, they were right because the numbers showed something unusual. Grealish was creating top-quality chances at a rate rivaling De Bruyne and Salah, but they simply weren't being converted. It was freakish bad luck. Eventually, though, the tide turned. By the time City were chasing Arsenal for the title, Grealish exploded back into form. Assists, goals, decisive contributions in the biggest matches. Against Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Arsenal, he was unplayable, silencing critics and reminding everyone why Guardiola had believed in him. When City completed the treble, Jack Grealish was hailed as one of their stars. It should have been the moment he cemented his legacy, but then came the celebrations, and in those 72 hours, Grealish's old habits resurfaced in spectacular fashion. Still in full kit at 8 a.m. the morning after the Champions League final, stumbling through airports, rumors swirling that staff offered him a wheelchair, boasting of not sleeping for 3 days straight, it was the kind of spectacle that belonged. In the 1990s, not in today's era of media scrutiny, the fans laughed it off. Pundits admired his passion. Beneath it all was the same warning sign that had haunted him for a decade. Excess always came back to haunt Grealish, and this time, the price would be his place at the very top. The next season told the story. Early injuries kept him sidelined, but whispers grew louder when doctors noted his dead leg was unlike anything they'd seen, and research pointed toward alcohol as a possible contributor. Pep Guardiola himself admitted the injuries Grealish was suffering weren't normal, that they only happen when a player isn't fit. Slowly, his place in City's squad slipped away. Once hailed as the future of England's attack, he was left out of the national team, his confidence drained. A full year without scoring, dropped from cup finals. It's rumors of a move to Everton, replacing his name alongside City's elite. Guardiola, once his biggest defender, admitted, He longed for the Grealish of the treble season, but couldn't lie to himself any longer. The player who had lit up Villa Park, who had terrorized Liverpool and Real Madrid, who had been called the right-footed Messi, had once again fallen into the same cycle: brilliance, followed by burnout, discipline undone by indulgence. And so, the story of Jack Grealish remains suspended between triumph and tragedy. In just 72 hours, he reminded the world of both his charm and his curse. He partied like Gascoigne, but unlike Gaza, he already had the platform to dominate modern football. The tragedy is that instead of solidifying himself as one of the best in the world, he now faces whispers of decline. Perhaps he has one more comeback left, one more run of brilliance to silence critics and reclaim his place. But for now, his legacy is written in the duality of those 72 hours, 3 nights of ecstasy that revealed the fragility of everything he had worked so hard to build. The question is whether Jack Grealish can escape the cycle once more, or whether those 72 hours were the beginning of the end.